So good afternoon everybody and welcome to today's meeting of the Rural and Farming Executive Advisory Committee, and also welcome to those that will be accessing the meeting via the live stream to YouTube. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked to please ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode. Only audio from the microphones will be captured on the live stream, therefore please ensure that they are switched on when speaking and switched off when you have finished speaking. Now, when we get on to the religious slaughter sector, a lot of my social media followers have asked me if I will live stream that myself. If anybody's got any problems with that, then please say now. Handy enough. So, agenda item number 1 is apologies for absence, please. Thank you. So, agenda item 2, we are being asked to approve the public minutes at pages 3 to 6 of the agenda pack as a correct record of the meeting, which took place on the 19th of June 2025. Can I ask any member who does not agree with the minutes to please indicate below? I see no objections to the proposal to approve the minutes as a correct record, so they are now agreed. Agenda item number 3 is to report additional items for consideration which the chairman deems urgent by virtue of special circumstances now to be specified. I have got one potential issue that I will discuss at the end of the meeting, if that's okay. It is regarding a previous motion, what was put through. So, do we have any issues with bringing that up at the end? Agenda item number 4 is to receive any declarations of interest under the local code of conduct or any in interest under the code of conduct on planning matters in respect of any items to be discussed at this meeting. If you've got anything to declare, please can you inform the meeting now? No hands was raised. Thank you very much. On to agenda item number 5. That's recent motions to full council in relating to farming and rural matters. Members, do we have any comments or questions on previous items? No, I like this. So I'm going to start off then with a bit of a success story for this area. So we've got Kerry, she's come along today. She's a local girl. Kerry, I'm going to explain, I'll let you explain now what you do and how Fenland has helped you. So over to you.
Thank you, Tim. My name is Kerry McFadden and I am the founder of First Turn Media. And I'm not here just as a business in the Fenland, but as somebody whose own journey has actually been directly supported by this council. Earlier this year, I received a startup grant from the Fenland District Council. And part of my application process was to establish why my business was necessary in this area, whether or not there's any competition and so forth, and of which there was a need and there wasn't any competition. Of course, those funds were for startup costs, equipment and training to sort of further my help for the community. But what I did was be able to free up further capital within my business to actually expand on the very reason why I wanted to set up First Turn Media here in March. The need for rural businesses in our community, where I live, where my children go to school, to catch up with the larger city-based marketing strategies, all while understanding the voice and tone of this community, which is very different from bigger cities. Some of the barriers that I have encountered when I speak with local businesses are reluctance and refusal to make changes. Some of them are, we've always done it this way, or we didn't need to do it 25 years ago that way. And there is also a distrust and misunderstanding towards digital advertising and marketing, and rightly so, because it is very much manipulated in some avenues. However, when it is correctly used and is in keeping with the business's objective, it is a hugely valuable tool and one that businesses are not exploiting enough in this area. That's where my Rural Business Growth Initiative was born. I was able to offer those first introductory steps into digital marketing, face-to-face, which is very important, understanding the person, not just the business. And I've been able to fund those first consultations free of charge, in large by the funding that I received from the council. I'm able to go out and visit businesses, understand them, their employees, and what they're doing, the strategies that they're currently doing, and how I can help them utilise marketing better within their businesses. Introducing new ways to expand their reach, and sometimes that's all that we do together. But the vast majority understand that they do need to do more and that they do need that little bit of extra help. Our working relationship sometimes expands to keeping costs low on the marketing front, but it's very much about building trust. I'm not here for short-term wins. I am here to work with my community. I want businesses in my community to flourish because we all benefit from it. With regards to the farming community, I empathise with the struggles that the farmers are currently having to have, and with that, some kind of diversification, which has become very necessary for some of them for their survival, but who have traditionally relied on a business-to-business or wholesale model. They are now having to communicate, sell, build relationships directly with the public for the very first time. And this transition isn't very easy. It requires confidence and skills and guidance that some of them have never had to utilise before in marketing, social media, AI automations, and a sales journey, all with understanding what the expectations of consumers are. It's a lot when they're already full-time farmers. There is simply a need for the right support and structure around them, and there is a real opportunity in Fenland to continue supporting its rural community and its farmers by providing accessible and practical guidance. That I wouldn't want to miss this opportunity to suggest that a system that's supported by the council, in such as a drop-in workshop or something similar, that where we can help the rural businesses and farmers offer and access advice on these things, such as customer engagement or AI automations and stuff that will help shift towards help them shift their business model towards a consumer-facing model. Even a small amount of structured support can make a huge difference. Your investment in First Turn Media, and in turn in my own initiative, has already proven how impactful this type of support can be, and I am incredibly grateful, not just for the funding, but for the vote of confidence that it represented. And I hope that by sharing my journey, it can demonstrate what's possible when we give rural businesses the tools to adapt, grow, and stay competitive. Thank you.
Has anybody got any questions for Kerry? Yes, Councillor Woolard.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just a quick one. Are you able, obviously without mentioning any specific names or businesses, but to give a specific example of how digital marketing has helped a local farmer?
A local farmer?
Yeah.
Yes, so some of the farmers are having to sell e-commerce, so having a website. And with that has taken up quite a lot of time and understanding, showing them how to start automation processes. So a customer's journey from, say for instance, someone goes on your website and they're looking at a product and they add it to a cart, but then they don't do anything with that and they leave the website. It's a sale that didn't do anything. Being able to put that process into where we can send up follow emails, where they don't physically have to do any work, is a massive benefit. It takes off that hands-on work, and we have seen that with an apple juice producer in this area.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm just going to come in and comment that I've made a little bit of a boo-boo. I should have declared an interest in this, to be fair, because Kerry is now looking after a lot of my social media channels and platforms for me. So apologies for that. I should have done it at the start, but I didn't think about it, to be honest. So, Kerry, have you got anything else that you would like to add?
No, just that one of the biggest things is I want to engage with my community. I want to be able to help businesses who have a fear of social media specifically, but digital advertisement. There is a big distrust with it, and thinking, especially multi-generational businesses who haven't had to employ these tactics before, having an understanding of how to use these platforms to your benefit while navigating all of the sort of the grey areas of it where it's not so kind is really important. So making it work for yourself, and that's really what I want to be able to do within the community.
Brilliant, thank you, Kerry. I mean, from my personal point of view, I mean, I've been on social media now for 5-6 years, and yeah, you've actually pointed me in a direction in a fortnight than what it would have took me 5 years to achieve. So it just shows that experience in the right place and knowledge of what your industry is can put us in the right place. And yeah, farming, it is all about diversification as well. So thank you. I know you did say you was going to manage my account, and if you can manage me, you'll be the first person that ever has managed to manage me ever. So well done, and thank you very much, Gary, for attending.
Kerry, can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
How specifically, for example, with Tim, are you changing what he's doing on social media?
Well, I've only known Tim for a couple of weeks, and so he came to me through some content that he'd seen on my own platform, looking for some guidance. So being able to reach people, the right people, the people in your audience, is really important. So making sure that you've implemented the right strategies to start off with. And actually, Tim wasn't on the right platforms, and they weren't set up correctly in order to maximise his reach. So we've made some changes in the background. We've set up some new things, and this is where he now will start to grow from in a correct format to maximise who he reaches on his platform.
Yeah, but I just wanted to ask you, obviously, like, for example, with the campaign that I'm doing, we've raised a lot of money only by social media. I wanted to ask you very specific questions, like, you know, if you are on Twitter or if you are on Instagram or whatever, it doesn't matter what the product is, but what are some of the ideas that you're using specifically which would make the difference between being not successful and being successful on social media?
In raising funds? Sorry, I'm not
in general, if you have a campaign, whatever the campaign is, whether it's an advertising campaign or selling a product, or whether it's a political campaign, what specifically, could you give a couple of recommendations about specifically what you would do?
Well, campaigns and selling products would be very, very different, because the way that you would go about them are very different. So speaking about your campaign, one would presume you've already got a platform in which to speak from. So are you looking to grow that platform?
Well, everybody's always looking to grow. I mean, whatever you are.
An element of that is going to be on a paid advertisement basis, and that is a very tricky ground, especially if you don't understand how the back end of Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, for instance, how those work, and the understanding of the auctionness of it. So yes, that you would have to implement those. Unfortunately, there is so much noise now that if you're wanting to target a specific consumer or a specific demographic of people, then unfortunately the way to do these on these platforms to guarantee your results is by paid campaigns correctly in the background.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. So we're now going to move on to agenda item 7. So I'm going to hand over now to Catherine Blakelock and Robin Tilbrook. And we've also got along Gurpreet Singh has joined us, to where we're going to be discussing and dealing with the religious slaughter, the motions, what I've put through, and basically what we have gained and achieved up to today. So over to you guys.
Thanks, Tim, and thank you for inviting us, myself and Robin and Mr. Singh here. So you might have all seen recently that Rupert Lowe in the House of Parliament tried to put a motion to ban halal and got 1 out of 650 votes. This has been the same, really, whatever colour of political party we've had, and indeed Reform have shown no interest in the subject whatsoever. So it's quite clear that we cannot, through Parliament, ban this awful practice or these awful practices. Robin has done a number of judicial reviews, including the judicial review for Brexit, and I'm a close colleague of Robin's, and I actually started the Brexit Party, although Nigel Farage will tell you that he did, but I actually put it through the Electoral Commission. So that's my political claim to fame. But Robin came up with the idea that, and Tim, I was put in touch with via Rupert Lowe, that there is tremendous abuse of what's going on with halal. Not so much Jewish slaughter. Jews are an infinitesimal part of this process, and they are not into slaughterhouse business. They don't market it. They don't abuse the rules. But the halal exemption you will see up here is under everything stems from this, and it's very straightforward. It says that an animal must be killed in a traditional way and rendered unconscious, except for the exemption, which is Mohammedans killing for Mohammedans and Jews killing for Jews. What we've actually got now, if we have 7% of Muslims, and Jews again are something like 0.2, so they are absolutely infinitesimal part of this problem, is that we have this vast amount of meat that is being killed in a religiously slaughtered method. And I use that word rather than halal because the word halal it means lots of different things. We obviously have the traditional halal, which is the unstunned, really barbaric process, but that is still a relatively small part of what's going on, maybe 10%. I've actually put a tweet out this morning which suggests that we really have sort of at least 3 different types of halal going on. And the stun is basically a word that is used so that everybody can get away with doing whatever they want. Everybody says, oh, well, let's ban halal, but stunned halal is fine. Well, stunned halal is not fine for Mr. Singh or all Sikhs. It is actually not fine for traditional Christians who don't want to worship a false god. And so we have traditional halal, we have certified stunned halal, which everybody thinks is the same as traditional slaughter, but it's not. We have actually got hold of a person who is involved in the slaughterhouse business in Scotland, who has gone through the process of converting a slaughterhouse mainly for lambs and sheep from traditional to halal, and the stun is half. In that case, half what a traditional stun would be, which means that the animals often wake up as they're having their throats cut. In chickens and turkeys, this stunning can be all sorts of things. It can be not stunned, it can be electric baths, etc. And we have that certified. So we have certified halal, stun certified halal. And then we have another massive group of slaughterhouses that are doing effectively what is uncertified halal. And we had Tesco go as far as to say that there's no difference between halal and traditional slaughter. Well, there was from Mr. Singh's point of view, but there probably isn't in terms of the actual process. And we have heard that there is, that they actually just have mechanical prayers chanted as these animals died. So let's just go on to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Okay, so in the summer, I am not a farmer. I've not been involved in this business at all. But Rupert Lowe suggested that I got in contact with Tim, and Tim's been doing a lot of work on this, and started to survey supermarkets. I surveyed and there was many, many more pages than this. We took about 4,300 samples. And we used Tim as a guide as to whether they were halal or religious slaughtered or not. And we did it by type, we did it by animal, we did it in 3 locations in the country, we did it including things like Iceland and Costco, and we also, there was foreign meat involved as well. We also did it by volume, so I'll just go back so you can have a look. But this is some of the stuff. I've got pages of it, and then I calculated what percentage was religiously slaughtered, and it's vast. It was something like 75%. You can see the yeses and the nos on the far side here. Some are either, some were questionable. The foreign stuff we cannot find. And you have to also understand that this is just the meat in supermarkets with a slaughterhouse code. All the ready meals in Marks and Spencer's, even a piece of chicken in Aldi that's got some salt and pepper on it doesn't have a code because it's now processed meat. So we have the vast proportion of ready meals that have no traceability whatsoever. We have all the foreign meat that's not traceable. The biggest amount of foreign meat is New Zealand lamb, which is widely sold, and New Zealand quite clearly advertises that majority of its exports are halal. So that was where we were. This is not a new subject. This has been going on, rattling on for 14, 15 years. You can find articles about the Dacia original lamb going back to 2010 when Waitrose said that it was very sorry, it was going to stop slaughtering these animals by halal. But again, it goes back. It carries on. So what we've had is sort of little groups of people, random people in different parts of the country, and probably a few people like the Sikh community who have wanted to do something, but nobody gets anywhere because there's no political will from the point of view of money, from the point of view of the supermarkets just want to be able to sell it to as many people as possible. So that was the situation. And it's getting worse. I mean, it's quite clearly not getting better. Tim's just mentioned that Marks and Spencer's may have been advertising halal turkeys. We know that Bernard Matthews, all of their turkeys are halal. So the next thing Robin and I decided to do was to do a judicial review on this point. So where we're going from here is I have started looking at surveying schools. Tim has surveyed some, and he's also told me he has no answers to the ones that he sent out. So Tim sent out some a few weeks ago, no answers. We sent out about 200 replies, 200 requests for freedom of information from schools to ask them, are you serving halal? Yes or no? And if you're serving it, is it labelled or not labelled? Out of the 200 sent out, 146 have not replied, so they will have to be chased up to be forced to reply. What we have is obstruction. We have obstruction. In fact, that reminds me, I wrote to the Ministry of Justice. There's been It's been in the army, it's been advertised in the army, in prisons. We've seen contracts go out. Lancashire Council sent out a contract for £500,000 of halal meat. Only halal people may apply. Now, we have to realise that it's only 7% of the population, and yet we're finding that, that again, in schools, we have some who serve both. But again, I'm having to now go back to them and ask them, what percentage are you selling? The law is, again, we go back to the original, the law is quite clear. It should not be served to school children or in prisons to the 94% of people who are not Muslim. So what we've decided to do as well is to do, we've decided, so yeah, just going on, I mean, this one, you will know it's halal. This is in Aldi, and the other thing that, looking at that, this has Red Tractor on it. And Red Tractor, Tim has had correspondence with Red Tractor. Red Tractor certify that they, effectively, that they don't sell halal and that they don't stamp it, recommend it, that they don't, and yet there is their sign sitting on a halal chicken. And then this is, you know, have a beautiful halal Christmas. So this is what I started about a month and a half ago, is to go to raise money for a judicial review, which Robin will be doing the legal stuff on, and we will send pre-action letters out to the local authorities shortly. So far, I've managed on Twitter, that was why I was asking you, because, I mean, I've single-handedly on Twitter raised 37,500 for this, and I probably spent about £50, so I boosted a couple of tweets. But we would like the local authorities, we know we cannot ban halal, but we would, at a minimum, like this stuff labelled, so that everybody knows what they're eating. And we would like the local authorities to enforce the law. As in most things in Britain, there are overlapping jurisdictions. We've got the food standards agencies, we've got local authorities, we've got DEFRA. They will actually send us letters when we make freedom of information requests saying this is not in the public interest. What they mean is they don't want us to know because it's so horrifying what's going on. I think that's the gist of it, but basically we've got a lot of letter writing to do, a lot of research, and there's just not enough information. I mean, it's really obscure. Everybody, we've got reams of emails from Waitrose, and if you ask them, do you sell halal? They'll say no. So do you sell religiously slaughtered meat? Oh, well, it might have had just a little prayer. So you do sell halal meat? Oh, well, and it goes on in this sort of vein. Or Sainsbury's just refuses to answer questions at all. So we end up with, you know, these you've seen them, these morasses of emails where they're basically lying, literally lying. I'm going to now pass over to Robin, and he'll say a few words about what he plans to do legally.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Catherine has done a fantastic job with this. It really is very impressive what you've done. And I do think when I was first discussing it with Catherine, I don't think either of us had any idea just what a vast proportion of the meat that's for sale in supermarkets is halal. I think we both of us thought that it was probably 25%.
Maybe less, 20.
But that alone would be an abuse of the exemption, because as you see from the original wording that we had from the Act from 1933, it's supposed to be only for the food for Muslims, or Mohammedans as it puts it. And the latest legislation is statutory instrument talks about the food for Muslims rather than for Mohammedans. So what's happening is that that actually the divide in many areas of public regulation, you get a number of different regulators. So there's sort of overlapping jurisdictions. it doesn't really work particularly well. It's probably set up not to work terribly well. It's probably a designed to fail type of arrangement. But what's happening is that under the 1933 legislation and ever since, local authorities have been required to have an inspectorate of slaughterhouses and knackers yards, as the original legislation talks about. And they are responsible for ensuring that the standard method of slaughter is used, except for those two exemptions. But that is simply not happening, and it's not happening all the way across not only England but the whole United Kingdom. Catherine was talking about a slaughterhouse in Scotland. They're now in the equivalent position. They are slaughtering by the halal method for sale to non-Muslims, so it seemed to me, from a legal point of view, I tend to be looking at questions of what my clients often ask me, what's the right thing, and I say, well, the law isn't necessarily about what's right or wrong; it's about what you can do about it. In this case, there is a point at which you could do something about it, and that point is the local government inspectorate. They are not doing their duty, and I would be quite surprised if we didn't find out that the reason they're not doing their duty does involve corruption, and very widespread corruption, clearly, from the fact that we've got this going on. So that's one place that we could actually make a difference. And there have been cases in the past where, for instance, in Soho, the police were failing to enforce the law. They were judicially reviewed. It was found there was a widespread corruption of the police, and the courts were successful in clearing that up. So I think we could make some progress with that. Another point that Catherine was making was about labelling, because again, as you've seen with the labelling of that were shown earlier of Waitrose, it talked about the animal living a well, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing. It was the sort of it had lived a nice life. It had had a high welfare provision. What wasn't mentioned on the labelling was the animal died having its throat cut and had left to bleed out. That's hardly a humane method of slaughter. So there is another area that could be we could have a go at, which is trading standards. Because trading standards across the country are not enforcing the proper labelling rules here. And neither of those things require any change of the law, which is they merely require the enforcement of the existing law. And that was the point I think that Catherine was making about Rupert Lowe's attempt to ban in Parliament. It's obvious that it's not possible to change the law on this in Parliament as it stands at the moment. But we could enforce the law as it stands, and we can do that both as regards slaughter and as regards labelling. And that's basically what we're proposing to do. I've been preparing to start sending out the letters before action. There's a protocol required under the judicial review rules, and I've got that ready to go. I think personally I'd like to do a test run so that we can make sure that we've got all the wrinkles sorted out. But then in principle we could wind up going for judicial reviews for every local authority where there are slaughterhouses or knackers yards. I should think after we've won a couple of those, the others will all knuckle down to actually doing what they're supposed to have done all these years.
So can I just say as well, what we didn't realise was the enormity of the subject. I think that I don't have the numbers yet because we're going to have to go to the Information Commissioner's office, even with the letters Tim, to force these schools to answer questions about whether they're selling either labelled halal or unlabelled halal. But it's not just schools, it's hospitals, it's Nando's, it's fast food outlets, it's across the whole society. And the schools are quite clearly not wanting to answer. In fact, I had a letter back from one who did answer, which is, I will name it, it's St John's Primary School in Reading, and it's part of the Diocese of Oxford. It's supposedly a Christian school. It was the most rude, nasty, threatening, unpleasant email I have ever seen. This was in response to an information request which simply said, do you serve halal meat? And by the way, this is 3-year-olds to 11-year-olds. And if so, is it labelled? This email said that I was diverting the course of democracy, that I had commercial interests, that I should destroy any communication with them. And then they did, in the middle of it, admit, this was unnamed, that they did serve halal. And obviously somebody in the Diocese of Oxford got very upset, saw this and thought, oh my goodness, we shouldn't have sent that out. And so I got an apology grovelling letter which said, yes, we do label it, to which I've sent another information request. So how does a 3-year-old give consent to eat halal meat, and how could they even read it? And do you ask the parents? And most parents, I know, will be very upset about this whole issue. It's prisons, it's been in the army. The army have now said that it's not serving it everywhere. It's local authorities tendering. We haven't started on hospitals. And so it goes on. So yeah, it's an enormous job. I think we are looking at 2 years probably to do this. It's not a quick fix, but Robin and I are pretty determined and we will carry on. So thank you.
Could I make an additional point? So what we're talking about can't cure all ills. You know, it's just what could be done that could make a difference. So the fact is, Catherine was mentioning Nando's, for example, selling. Now, they've obviously bought meat. What we don't know is what the process of them buying the meat was. We haven't got the information that shows that there's actually been any illegality there. But there might have been, and I'll give you an example of where it does appear that there's been illegality. One of the things that Catherine mentioned was that it turns out that Lancashire County Council put out a tender saying that they wanted contracts to supply halal meat for their schools. So consequently, that I think amounts to incitement and is therefore probably a criminal offence, let alone a civil matter, because they were inciting the slaughter of meat by the halal method for the supply of meat to non-Muslims. I think that might well be something that could be done, but I'm not sure whether it's going to be within Catherine or my remit to do that, because what we're then talking about is police investigations and prosecutions. Of course, part of the issue in the country is that the police might very well not be interested in doing anything like that.
Can I just say, so there really are, in terms of this issue, there really are two fundamentally different philosophical moral issue points here. I mean, one is the cruelty to animals aspect, which is what most people focus on. But there is also the religious philosophical view. And I had one email back from the school saying, well, what does it matter? Doesn't make any difference. Well, I think we ought to ask Mr. Singh to speak for a second, because from a religious point of view, well, ancient Christianity, it is absolutely against the scriptures, and for Sikhs, it is again, they end up having to be vegetarian. So the philosophical religious point of view is really important, that one group can dictate to the other 93% of all sorts of religions what they should be eating.
I'm Gurpreet Singh Anand. I represent the oldest Sikh place of worship in the United Kingdom, having been established in 1908. It's called the Khalsa Jatha British Isles. We're based in Kensington in London. One of the biggest complaints I get from my congregants and from those in the wider Sikh diaspora is the issue of halal meat. Halal meat is strictly forbidden for Sikhs. In Sikhism, it's forbidden for many reasons. One reason, because it was imposed. It was an imposition that only halal would be available if you were under, at the time, it was Mughal rule. And we rebelled against that because our principle in the slaughter of meat is that the animal should be slaughtered as fast and painlessly as possible. And indeed, British standards meet that with a full stun and the method of slaughter used. One of the founders of our place of worship wrote a book on that, where he actually said mechanical slaughter in the UK can be considered as jhatka, is the term we use. Jhatka just means fast, not slowly, not to cause pain to the animal. So as Sikhs, we don't consume halal meat. It's in our code of conduct, it's actually forbidden. It's considered a sin for us. And it's a major sin, not a minor one either. So we're constantly looking out when we're going to restaurants or buying meat from supermarkets or anywhere else, that is that meat halal or non-halal? We always thought, with that red tractor symbol you showed, that meant that meat is non-halal. Clearly it's not. Looking at the research that Catherine, Robin, Tim and others have been coming out with, this is a travesty for the Sikh community, because it means we've been going to purchase meat under the assumption it does not have a halal label, therefore it must not be halal. But what is truly happening in the background is halal slaughter is becoming the economic primary type of slaughter, and that's been sold either as halal or either as non-halal, and there is no clear labeling. In 2015, the British Sikh report, so it's a report that's done annually of Sikhs in the UK, asked a question on what do Sikhs want to see around the labeling of meat, around halal. And 74% responded saying we need to see clear labeling. Yet we just don't get that. If you want to find out where your meat came from, you'd have to look for the slaughterhouse label, if it was there, the code, then go through a huge spreadsheet. Imagine trying to do that in a supermarket, because I attempted it after I saw one of Catherine's tweets and this code, and I thought, I'm in Sainsbury's, let me check if this meat I'm buying is halal or not. And I gave up and just put it back on the shelf because I could not, substantiate how had this meat been slaughtered. And so it's a major issue for Sikhs. In approaching schools, it's been a journey for me, because seeing my children go from schools, my son now serves in the army, he's constantly having to check, is the meat he's eating halal or not? And we discovered that at his primary school at one point, they were serving nothing but halal. And so we decided to object. And we were told, well, your son can eat vegetarian food. And, we're thinking, why the discrimination? Where is your public sector equality duty on this? This is discriminatory. So we push it further, get nowhere. Then I went to my MP, and on my MP's intervention, they introduced non-halal options of the same. So if you were having a chicken, there'd be a non-halal chicken version. But what your research shows, that non-halal could, and quite likely, is halal also. It shouldn't require a parent having to go to their MP just to get equality for their child. And that's a challenge many parents face. And some of them, when dealing with the schools, you literally feel like you're being othered. That, why are you questioning this? You know, is there something wrong with you? And these are our schools which educate our children. If someone ought to know what do different faiths around the world eat or don't eat, it ought to be our schools. They all have visits to the Gurdwara. We actually talk about this when children come to visit the Gurdwara. But yet, in how they work economically, it's becoming that halal is imposed as a de facto standard of meat in our schools, in our restaurants, and in public institutions, and it's wrong as far as from the Sikh perspective is it needs to stop. We are examining as a community as many Gurdwaras are actually charities, and we know we are limited on what we can do on our charitable status, on what we can fund, which may be deemed political. But we are looking into this because this is a serious concern for us. This isn't political. It's got nothing to do with any political party. It's our ability to be able to eat meat, knowing that it's not halal, as the label may well indicate. You know, if there's a red tractor on it, we were assuming that that's not halal, but that's not the case anymore. So for the Sikh community, this is a big crisis.
Thank you, guys. I know when I first put the first motion through council, through this very council, regarding halal and the kosher slaughter, I mean, I received all sorts of messages, and I still do. You know, I'm Islamophobic, I'm racist, I'm this, I'm that. We've had 3 or 4 death threats regarding it all, and you just brush it off and carry on. But the response that we actually got back from the first motion that we put in, from the FSA and DEFRA, was stating that, thank you very much for your motion, but we have no intentions of changing the labelling system. But to prove my point on the racist, on the Islamophobics and everything else, obviously I'm not, because no horribleness intended, Gurpreet, we've invited you along to discuss how you guys are getting pushed out of it. We seem to be getting pushed down this one line of the halal only. I know kosher is a completely different ruling, and Robin, you blew my mind away when you was trying to tell me the legalities of that one. That was I couldn't believe that one for love nor money. But has anybody on the floor any questions and comments regarding this one, please?
Yeah, not a question really, but more of just a comment in support on the labelling issue. And I do think whatever your religious beliefs, whatever your animal welfare beliefs are, the general community should have the option, and the options of whether they are eating halal meat or non-halal meat should be easily apparent to them, so that people have a genuine choice to make when they're shopping, when they're eating in restaurants, whatever. So certainly on the labelling front, I would support you 100%.
So we've had several issues. I've questioned Red Tractor many a times. I've questioned the NFU, the RSPCA, and the Red Tractor and the RSPCA both state they do not support any forms of religious slaughter, which obviously we know they do. We've seen all the packaging with the Red Tractor logo on it. But that is something what us as a group, not council, us as a farming group, like the other part of my life, we're going to have to deal with and take on. It's too big for council to deal with because it's industrial as well. So we will deal with them on that as well. So do we have any more questions before we move on, guys? Thank you very much, folks. So, agenda item number 8, another biggie what we've been dealing with. And I did ask our leader's advice whether he wanted me to deal with this one through council or through the Pro Farmers Group. And we've dealt with it through the Pro Farmers Group because it is an industrial, it's international, and it is a big, big problem what has arisen. And that is this thing called Bovia in cows, where dairy cows have been fed this additive to try and reduce methane, all in the name of the big con of net zero. The Danes are in big trouble. They're losing cows. Cows are dying. Basically, to cut a long story short, that Marks and Spencers have pulled out from the trial after a lot of pressure from us. Arla, the people who was actually the main dairies using it, have stopped using it at the moment to basically check their data on the results. So at the moment, the UK is Bovar clear, although there is still a lot of imported dairy products coming to the country, and products what have been made containing Bovia, like butter, cheeses, have got a considerable shelf life on them. So at the moment, all supermarkets, or most supermarkets, have actually signed up to the use of Bovia because they claim their carbon tax credits and their net zero credits to be able to use this stuff. The EFSA, the European Food Standards Agency, at the start said it is completely harmless, will not enter the milk and enter the meat. And in 2023, the UK decided that, yes, we could go ahead and trial it in this country. And one of my whistleblowers from the EFSA has sent me a statement with the volumes, what was entering the milk and the meat, proving that, yes, it does enter it. And that statement was actually wrote out in 2021. So 2 years prior to us actually being told, no, it doesn't. So we've been dealing with that in a big, big way. Social media has covered a lot of that one for us. Guys that's following me at the minute on this live stream, they've been heavily involved with it. So that is just something else what is being slipped into food chain without us being informed properly of its nastiness. But I've kept it away from council, but I did say to the leader that I would just mention it today, just to let you know what other things are going on behind all of our backs. To say I can't discuss it too much in here because obviously it's too big for council to deal with. It was done on a personal thing through the farming group, but I did say I would just bring people up to date of something else what's going on. So we've got agenda item 9 now, that we now need to agree future work committee agenda items. And to be honest, from where I'm sitting, I know that there's several members of the committee not in today through illness and whatnot. But I know that if I pick the phone up and go, right, can you look into this for me? Can you research that for me? Well, I'll deal with X, Y, and Z. I know that they will do it. We're the only council in the country to have a farming committee. And that is word what we really do need to get out there. It is getting out there. And an email that I received just before I came into chambers was that I should have a telephone call with Kemi Badenoch tomorrow morning because she wasn't aware that we'd actually got a farming committee and was only the farming committee in the country on a council. So that could be a big step. She might not like what she's going to hear, but it will be done for the good of the industry. So, have we got any other items that people need to discuss? So, on agenda item number 10, it's items which the chairman deemed urgent. I said at the start that I'd got one I wanted to bring up, and that was one what was regarding a motion I brought up quite some time ago when we was discussing I believe it was the TB and Bluetongue motion. It was also stated that we must support the local farmers within Fenland with their planning applications, their expanse of wanting to put new farm sheds up and farm shops, etc., etc. I don't believe that motion has actually got through properly to our planning officers, which I need to check up on, because there is some horrendous issues I'm getting complaints from the local farmers with planning. So I do need to bring that one up. If we can minute that, I will bring it up properly with the planning officers and the lead of planning, and if need be, I'll have them in chambers at the next meeting and try and get these issues solved. I'm expecting another one to come in within the next couple of weeks, another complaint. So, but I'll look at that and we'll deal with that as we move forward. But has anybody else got anything else at all they wish to say and discuss? No. So if there's nothing else to discuss, then guys, that is the close of the meeting. And thank you very much for all that attended. And thank you to all the people, the 18,000 comments sat here at the moment on my social media whilst live streaming this. So keep watching that one, Kerry, because you've got to deal with that one soon. Guys, thank you very much, and have a safe journey home, followers.